Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Case Cracked is the show where we look into a mystery and what are the critical pieces that help solve that mystery. Many cases need a combined effort between law enforcement and observant citizens willing to listen, care, and act when the situation arises. Today, we're covering two stories of Good Samaritans and how they played a critical role in bringing not just one, but two children back home safe to their families. On February 9th, 2021, in Columbus, Ohio, Barofa Kamara loaded her two children, a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old, into her maroon Acura SUV and started the trek through the snow-filled streets to the older boy's daycare. At about 8:30 a.m., she pulled up to the KinderCare Learning Center on Tamarack Circle North. As she took her son out of his car seat, she noticed a blue minivan pull up behind her SUV. Assuming it was someone there to drop their children off as well, she picked up her son and started toward the business's door. Seconds later, two men jumped out of the minivan and into Barofa's still-running car and sped away with 4-month-old Alpha still inside. Immediately, the daycare's assistant director called 911. As he handed the phone to Barofa, she began to describe to the dispatcher what had happened. Quote, "They parked behind me. I saw the car. They were looking at me. I thought they were about to bring somebody into daycare." Screaming, she continued, "My baby, my baby." With the description of the vehicle in hand, an Amber Alert was issued, and officers in Columbus began to comb every area they could think of on the north side of town. At the same time, 19-year-old Tiana Webb was getting a ride from her friend, Neve Dow. Neve was taking Tiana to an auto shop to pick up her car, and they were driving through the northeast side of town. Tiana's phone was recharging in the car because the battery was completely drained. As the two women neared Tamarack Circle, Tiana's phone finally charged enough to turn on, and when it did, an Amber Alert lit up on her screen. A 4-month-old infant had been abducted as part of a carjacking on the city's northeast side, and police were asking for the public's help finding it. To their surprise, as Neve turned onto Hildreth Avenue, she saw the Acura sitting in the street, turned off, with all of its doors open. Was this actually the car that they just read about? Worried that someone might still be in the vehicle, but more worried about the baby, they parked and ran over to see if the child was okay. To their relief, Alpha sat sleeping, alone, still in his car seat. Tiana laughingly told reporters, "Thank God, there was nobody in it. That would have been terrible." Luckily, the warm, fuzzy blue snowsuit that his mother had dressed him in that morning had kept him warm in the below-freezing temperatures. Neve then picked up little Alpha and made sure he was unharmed. The two kept him warm and happy until officers arrived. Within minutes, they were there along with Alpha's tearful mother. After thanking the women and police, she left with her son and took him to Nationwide Children's Hospital to be checked out. Luckily, he was completely unharmed and was released quickly. When reporters asked if the two women had anything they wanted to say, Tiana said, quote, "I'm sorry that this happened. I'm just glad we found your baby. Thank God that happened. There are actual miracles." To show law enforcement's appreciation, Deputy Chief Becker presented Tiana and Neve with his division's challenge coin. These coins are given in both law enforcement and the armed forces in recognition of special achievements. Alpha's mother, Barofa, couldn't be happier to have her son and her car back. In a statement to the press, she expressed to everyone how thankful she was that her child was found unharmed. She also thanked the two women and police for their quick work and caring. Even though we have a happy ending in this case, police are still asking for the public's help in identifying the two suspects. We don't know what happened to the blue minivan the suspects drove, and we don't know if that's possibly a way to help figure out who they are. Police say it was unclear if the van remained in the parking lot or if someone else left with that vehicle. CCTV footage is being looked at now, and officers hope to resolve the case soon. But if you have any information on that case, please call Columbus Police at 614-645-4545. Officers would also like to remind Columbus residents that car thefts are up due to the cold weather. It's tempting to leave your car running outside your home or business, but officers stress that you should not leave your car unattended and running for any reason. It wasn't a car theft that grabbed law enforcement's attention that same week in Louisiana. One afternoon, police were called to a home in New Iberia, a town about 22 miles from St. Martin Parish. A family at the residence stated that their 10-year-old daughter, Jalisa LaSalle, had gone missing. She was last seen getting into the gray car of a family acquaintance, a 33-year-old man named Michael Surreal. Because they had no license plate number and not a very clear description of the vehicle, an alert of imminent danger was released. Several hours later, at 11:45 p.m., law enforcement received the information they needed to finally upgrade that to a proper Amber Alert. From there, they issued the alert to the local media and on all of their social media channels. Almost immediately, officers noticed something strange. The alert didn't ring through to their phones, despite the fact that they received a successful message sent from the Amber Alert program's response center. The program was checked and no problems were found, but the message still wouldn't go out. Finally, at about 1 a.m., troopers appealed to another agency and asked them to send the message. That's when they realized that Michael Surreal was on the parish's sex offender database for a conviction. Even though he was constantly required to check in with police and notify people in his community of his status, the last time police knew his whereabouts, he was listed as homeless in 2018 in New Iberia. Thankfully, they did get the Amber Alert to finally go through. Was the right person going to see it? 39-year-old Dion Merrick's day started like any other. For nearly 3 months, the U.S. Navy veteran had worked for Pelican Waste in St. Martin's Parish in Louisiana. Brandon Antoine was his partner on the sanitation truck. The two had just started their route at about 7 a.m. when Dion noticed something that seemed more than odd to him. Parked in the middle of an empty field was a silver Nissan. Quote, "Something told me," I said, "what's that car doing off in the field like that?" That's when he remembered the Amber Alert that had rang through phones late the night before, and this car fit the description on that alert. Deciding to trust his gut, Dion blocked the entrance to the field with the massive sanitation truck so the car couldn't leave. He called 911. As Dion talked to the 911 operator, the man in the silver car opened his door and looked at the two sanitation workers. That was when Brandon realized that he also fit the description of the abductor. When this information was relayed to the operator, police arrived within a matter of minutes. While Dion filmed the action on a Facebook Live video, officers pulled a screaming Surreal from the car. "Why are you doing this to me?" he yelled repeatedly. When officers then pulled Jalisa from the car, she was hysterical and in tears. At the end of the Facebook Live video, officers can be heard thanking the men for their help and service. Dion, a father himself, was brought to tears. "I was just doing my job, man. I was just doing my job and came across somebody who actually needed help," he said. As Jalisa was taken to a local medical center to be evaluated, Dion told officers, "If she needs something to eat, I'll buy it." After her evaluation, Jalisa was released to her happy family. Michael Surreal has been charged with aggravated kidnapping and failure to register as a sex offender. His conviction could bring a sentence of life in prison without parole. When asked by reporters why he acted as he did, Dion replied, "I didn't want anything to happen to her. We're a big community. It might be a small town, but we're a big, close-knit community. So I had to do what I had to do for my community. If you see something that's not right, you call 911. Pelican Waste has praised the actions of its employees and has since set up a GoFundMe where everyone can donate and thank the two sanitation workers. So far, it has collected over $18,000. Cases cracked by Good Samaritans paying attention to their Amber Alerts and stepping up for their communities. I would like to thank ABC6OnYourSide.com, CBS Local News Pittsburgh, Dispatch.com, Wave3.com, NBC News, MyArcLemis.com, The Washington Post, WPXI.com, and KATC.com. Of course, the biggest thank you has to go to Christy Arnhart for researching and writing up today's cases, and here she is to discuss them with me now. So, Christy, I know that we had a couple of different hoops that they had to jump through, in particular with the Amber Alert on Jalisa's case. And
Hmm.
a lot of states have very strict rules for when an Amber Alert can be issued. One of those rules that I've seen in several of the states is they need accurate information. First of all, it has to be an imminent threat, but I
Hmm.
think that this falls into that. But second, they need accurate information about the vehicle. They don't seem to like to push out an Amber Alert without a clear description of the vehicle and usually even the license plate information. So it seems like there was a stopgap in terms of them getting that info. But then they had the info and they were trying to push through the alert and it wasn't going. Do you know what was going on with that? Did you find any explanation about what was happening there?
Well, I know the company has looked at the program. They're trying to see where that actually happened. They don't have any idea. Everything on their end showed message sent successful. It was good to go, but
Wow. Wow.
no.
Yeah. And I've never even really considered that before, but think of what an Amber Alert is effectively doing, the way it's tied into multiple phone carriers and all that. There's a lot of connectivity that's happening across a lot of different systems there. So, one broken link in that chain, and I guess you could have a technical problem like that. I'm glad they worked it out and obviously got it out because Dion wouldn't have known without that. I mean, he might have still thought, hey, something strange about that car sitting over there, but to know to act in the way that he did, blocking the actual road off with the truck, which
No,
let me just
it's just
say,
incredible.
I mean, it's amazing. And honestly, even the Facebook Live, I know a lot of people might think about that and go, what the heck is he kicking on a Facebook Live for? You know what? Facebook has been used in that way to help protect people in a lot of situations.
Hmm.
I think it's actually pretty smart.
Oh,
And
yeah.
having some of the context, like we don't know what was going on with Jalisa in that car, but knowing that it's an Amber Alert, that there's a child involved, kicking on a camera right away just to capture whatever's going to happen, especially around what could be a volatile situation, like you heading
Mm.
off an escape route potentially for someone.
Hmm.
I think this guy was firing on all cylinders, and I'm really thankful that he came across that scene.
Oh, very.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of looking because, quite honestly, I've been seeing a lot of articles lately in the area I live in about carjackings.
Mm.
And carjackings are up like crazy in several places all over the country. But Minneapolis in particular seems to be a hot spot. They're reporting an increase of 537%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like everybody's car has been handed over at one point.
I mean, seriously, I can't. There's not a morning where I wake up and look at my news feed that I don't see a story about a carjacking either in St. Paul or Minneapolis. Chicago,
My gosh.
they're also tracking that it's more than doubled in Chicago. One possible factor in this that's being theorized about is the fact that now we're all used to seeing people wearing masks. So
Mm.
if you have someone approach your car and they're wearing a mask, that's not the same as it would have been a few years ago. Now you're kind of used to it. You're kind of like, oh, this is just a person that's wearing a COVID mask and they're coming to ask for directions, or maybe they're begging for money or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden,
Hmm.
there's a weapon that's pulled and your car is being taken from you.
Wow,
There's
I didn't even think about that.
yeah. It is a strange side effect because I remember the first couple times going out and encountering people with masks, I kind of had that weird reaction of, oh, there's a guy in a mask. And that's completely gone now, several months
Yeah.
into this. Like I see people with masks all over and, someone knocks on my door and they're wearing a mask. It's like, oh yeah, it's just the UPS guy. He's dropping something off. We're in a different place about that now. So certainly
Yeah.
increases risk around that. There's also a method that is being used called the bump and rob, which effectively they'll intentionally tap your car from behind to get you to pull over like you've had an accident. And then as you're exchanging your information or whatever, someone else jumps in your car and takes off with it. The first guy gets back in his car and takes off with that, and you're stuck.
Wow.
So our local police, and I think this is just good advice, that's why I'm putting it out there for you guys wherever you're living, they're saying if you get in what seems like a minor accident like that, like you get tapped from behind or someone kind of hits you in that way, if it feels off, don't get out of your car. Drive to a well-lit public area, like look for a shopping center parking lot or something of that nature. And if you still feel weird about what's going on as you're driving to that area, pick up the phone and dial 911, get them on the line right away. Tell them that you've just been in this accident. You feel strange about it and you're driving to a public area. Yeah, I think it's a really good consideration because it's crazy. I mean, these percentages, that's insane. I mean, just to hear that it's
Never heard
double.
a percentage that high.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right. It's, it's 5 times it's 5 times higher now in Minneapolis. And of course, with that side effect, we're hearing a lot of these stories. It's pretty frequent now that I'm seeing these stories about carjackings, and there's children that are a part of it. There's children that are left in the car. Thankfully, in most of the stories that I've been tracking on that, the child and the car do wind up somewhere else. I think there's an effect. Christy, you wrote it in the notes. What do you think these guys went through when they realized there was a baby?
I can only imagine the panic when they looked in the back seat and thought, "Oh my God, we stole this car and there's a baby in the back."
Seriously.
I mean, I know they found it with the doors open.
Yeah.
I can just see this dude in a panic, just flinging the door open and running out.
It's one thing to get a charge for Grand Theft Auto. It's another thing for kidnapping. So yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of people.
A criminal doesn't mean a murderer or
Right.
a kidnapper. You know, it's just a car. He didn't want a baby.
Right. Yeah. So another tip that I found is when you're pulling up to a stoplight, be sure to keep a full car length between you and the car in front of you. Because if someone, think about a situation where you're pulling up at a stoplight and the person in front of you actually wants to carjack you, you've got nowhere that you can go if you don't have enough space to actually turn out of the lane. So
that's a really good suggestion. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. Keep a full car length there. Yeah. So other than that, a couple of other points just to touch on. You actually thought that the Amber Alert hitting in the middle of the night might have been helpful in this case?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, if they're anything like me, I have everything on either silent or vibrate. And when I go to sleep, it does not wake me up.
Yeah.
So getting up first thing in the morning to get ready for work, he would have flipped his phone open first thing, turned it on. There you go. That Amber Alert is fresh in his mind right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And obviously it was fresh in his mind with the way that he took those actions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Really good, Christy. Thank you so much for bringing up these stories. I'm glad that they both have happy endings. I love to hear happy endings, particularly around cases with children like this.
Yes.
Yeah, we really appreciate your help on today's episode, and I've got some other people to thank right now. Thank you, PayPal supporters Angela Dixon, Angela Welch Sola, Sandy Reed, and longtime friend of the channel, Dr. Gunsmith. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, or buy merchandise. Case Cracked is frequently demonetized by YouTube, but we know that learning about the mechanisms that help support and find justice in these cases is important to understand the many unsolved cases that we also cover. So we really appreciate your support in allowing us to continue doing that. Remember, you can get another Lord and Art story every week on the Seriously Mysterious podcast. A new episode is coming tomorrow and every Tuesday after that. Visit seriouslymysterious.com and remember to subscribe on your favorite podcatchers. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon down below if you'd like to catch one of our weekly secret live shows. And of course, I'll be back with a new Unsolved Mystery for you on Friday, right here on the Lord and Arts channel.